problem with this one is when you get to about this far, that's when the stones are too short and they start to get trapped. Right, welcome back, episode 12. You've probably just seen a little bit of footage of what we were doing yesterday. Now on to today. We're going to continue to do this half. We'll fit the base gaskets, then we'll do a bit of honing. There's a cheap tool. There's the correct tool. This is 10 times the price of that one, but it's the right tool and it's worth doing. We're going to take out the power valves, put new seals in, clean them all up, decoke them. With the barrels, after we've honed them, we'll check our piston ring gap, and then we'll do the top gasket, and then this, the board, and we'll put a fresh sheet of paper. That's from yesterday's exercise. We'll just do a little bit of surface preparation on the cylinder head prior to installing it. All good? Right, let's get into it.
Go on then.
Okay, so after a little bit of honing and prior to doing some more cleaning, what we've done, we've just cleaned off the surfaces, but we're gonna pop the power valves out. So out she comes. There's the bush, O-ring that you got to replace. Clean all that in there properly. Just put that to one side for now. That long Allen key bolt there. Little sort of shark's fin retaining clip thing. Okay, one half of a power valve. Note the two pins, they can come loose. Can't see it very well in here, but there's the seal that we're going to replace there and an O-ring there. So standard replacement, one O-ring, two O-rings, this seal in here. That's one kit from Yambits. It's got, for two power valves, you've got one, and then there's four O-rings. Okay, I don't know how successful my videoing skills are going to be without Tracy doing this, but I'm just going to start and rebuild this. So what am I doing here? I'm just putting a coating of two-stroke oil around the barrel. Now, before I go whacking this over there, I've got to refit some piston rings. Oh, before I forget, let's pop our rings in and check our gap, eh? So I can get 0.3 in there quite easily. And then the largest I want is about 0.7. No, I can't fit the 0.66 between there. Okay, and as I've fitted it over the expander ring, I can squeeze that together and it's just barely standing proud, which is good. We'll know for sure in a second or two when I'm going to fit the barrel over it. This is the upper ring. Remember, it's got slightly wider in that dimension, not the thickness on the sides, this direction, yeah. Anyway, so if that peg's at 1 o'clock, this peg here is now at 11 o'clock for the upper ring. There we go. They're all good. Okay, one last look at this. Now, what I tend to do is these cutaway portions, I'm going to be squeezing the rings together with my finger and thumb here as I'm placing this over the top. Okay, nice and easy. Having seated that all the way, I've not bolted it down yet, but having seated it all the way down, what I can do is move all four pistons using just one piston at the moment, and in doing so I know, because I did this each time I put one barrel and piston together, I do a quick check just to make sure I can still move stuff, nothing snagging up, which it isn't. So what's this piece of paper on this wood all about? Put some WD-40 on that That's 1000 grit sandpaper. And what I'm looking for, you head and lower it, you do this on a sheet of glass and you'd be doing it for quite a while to actually lower it significantly. Now, I don't want to adjust this because we will do the squish test. I don't know what squish clearance we've got at the moment. I think we're looking for about 0.7 or something. I'll have to check the manual. But anyway, I'm not looking to alter that. What I'm looking to do is use the sandpaper as a flat reference onto this, just to identify if there are any sort of pockets or low spots in there. Now, if I do this the conventional manner and sort of go at this with sandpaper in my hand's going to follow the contours. So I'm not going to see if there's any low spots in there. Now, the previous person who rebuilt this engine put it together with a little bit of gasket goo. Now, it could be that there's some defects in here that I'm not aware of. Anyway, what this will do, this will expose that for me because I'm using fine sandpaper, flat surface. I'll get clean and shiny, and I should get clean and shiny all the way through. Any areas that are not clean and shiny, those are the low spots. Depending on how big they are, depends on whether or not I'm going to need some gasket goo. But anyway, I'm simply going to be going round and round and round like that, but I can't do it and film at the same time. So I'll get there are some little tiny lows right on the outside edge there, but I'm not concerned about that. There's the bulk of this is very, very flat and smooth, and the outside edge surface of this piston, because that little clearance on the outside ring there and here is very important. If the clearance is insufficient, then, you know, basically the piston is getting too close to the cylinder head, and you can actually have pre-ignition. So if you know how a diesel engine works with compression ignition, in other words, you squash the fuel air mixture so much that it actually heats up and then explodes. Well, we don't want that to happen with a petrol engine. We want the spark plug to set off. So yes, we want to compress the fuel air mixture in this bowl, but we don't want it to actually prematurely ignite. So that's what happens when you've got too small of a squish band, or too, when they say squish band, I mean everything is too tight. The piston's coming up too close to this. There's not enough space. Off the top of my head, I'll have to double check the book, but I think it's about 0.7 of a mil. Now, if you've got a, let's say you've got a larger than desirable space. So we stick our solder through, we turn the engine over, and it's, I don't know, it's going to be ridiculous now, but let's say it's like 1.6 millimeters. It's very, there's a lot of space, right? Then you've got a low compression engine, and it's not the most high performing, it's not the most efficient, and that's not what we're looking for. We want to be, there's an optimum value that we're looking for. The manual tells us all about that, and that's when we talk about squish clearance or squish measuring. That's what we're talking about, and it's very important. All right, now what else can I tell you about? Yeah, that's probably it. There's videos that explain the concept of doing your squish in the research piece. It's a very interesting subject, but there you go. All right. Okay, so it's all back together. Head to talk down, and just waiting for a grown-up, i.e. Tracy, to come and check my work.
You have your assistant.
Thank you. Okay, because my previous video stuff was rubbish.
What are we doing?
Well, I'm just practicing stripping and rebuilding, to be honest, but okay, so when you're doing your power valve, make sure you get the castellated to the outside.
Right. Did we not?
I just want to make sure that they fit both ways. And they do.
They do?
Yeah. But further research indicates that whilst they may fit both ways, it's not the intended sort of position. What's up with that?
Yes, Bailey. I think Bailey's getting hungry.
Okay.
Right.
The other thing I want to do is fit that locking tab washer to the clutch. So because I can't get the socket on here, so I can't get the torque wrench on. I torque these two that I can get the socket on to 28. Then I put my spanner on, get a reference of how hard I got to force, and immediately go to the next one where I get the spanner from.
Right.
So that's about as good as I can give it at the minute. Right, that's all good. That's turned over nicely. I'm happy with that.
Go.
Okay, so if you do want to torque the lower nuts to the correct torque setting, which of course you do, then all you need is a set of these, which are crow's foot adapters for your torque wrench, 12mm 1/2 inch to 3/8 drive adapter, torque wrench, heads. And whereas the base are 28 newtons, these are only 22 newtons. Feels like it should be a 30. Yeah, it is.
Voila.
Yeah?
Yeah. I thought you said double knots.
Yeah. All right. And then double dots, single dot.
Go.
Well, good. Right. So what we're actually going to do today is take this down to Adams and do the pressure test, the leak down test. But in order to do that, he's manufactured he's 3D printed some bungs for the exhausts on both sides. And we need the inlet manifolds and the rubbers refitting. Do you know, for a second, I thought that was a dirty, great big crack in it. I was like, oh my God, that's gonna totally screw the show. Oh, I've moved it off now, but there was a little thin line of black sealant that somebody's used in the past. So as soon as I started wiping it off, it was like, oh, thank God for that. So I've just taken the peg out with a set of pliers so I can just resurface both sides. Again, using 1000 grit and some WD-40. There's a little bit of pitting and bits and pieces in there, some marks here and there.
Yeah.
And then there's a bit of a low here, because all this is shiny.
Yeah.
That's not. Refining the surface so that the gasket can do its job without the aid of copious amounts of gasket goo. Which would work perfectly fine. It's just thinking about the next person that takes this off, which could very well be me. So looking pretty good at the minute. I'll just polish her up a little bit more. So it's just held in with these two 5mm Allen key bolts. Do you remember?
How did they go?
Well, if I recall correctly, but now I've got to go and watch the video to check. The upper two went to the lower two, and the lower two go to the upper two.
Yeah, that's how I remember it.
Is it?
Yeah.
Because it was kind of like back to front. So these should be for the top two up here.
Yeah. Should be.
But it's very important, because otherwise you're feeding the oil at the wrong time to the wrong place. So you want to make sure you get the right ones in the right order.
Yeah, better check that out.
And one thing that I have noticed that's quite important is going to the manual. It makes sense when you think about it. You see this little scribe mark there and there.
Yeah.
And there's one on this one as well.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so these go uppermost towards the cylinder head.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason I say it makes sense when you think about it is because your oil feeds are on the lowest side.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool. All right, we'll clean these up a little bit more.
Go.
Yeah, I didn't know which way you're going. All right, so okay, we've had the inlet manifolds on and off a couple of times, and what I'm finding is the easiest way to get them in, you know, without sort of distorting rubbers and forcing things at all. So you take them both, you connect them together, you put the bolts in, and then you offer this lower set in as a pair. Yeah. Don't try to put one in then the other, and make sure you get the oil pipes on the correct side. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, that's that. I'm just tightening those up now.
Doing well.
Okay, having put the inlet manifolds on, I then realised that this transmission transfer pipe that goes around the back of the engine needed to go on before the two-stroke oil pump. Okay, but it's quite easy, just undo the 2 bolts and pop the oil pump out of the way and the pipe goes on. Too easy. All right. It's power valve controller. When I say refurbish it, I've just taken this apart, and the reason I've taken it apart, I don't know if you can see this little roll pin. Mm-hmm. It's flapping about in the breeze. So that goes through here and is held in place with a circlip and a washer. So when that would be activating and trying to control the power valves there, we're losing action in this. So I'm just going to clamp it in the vise, and then put a tack weld on the back just to punch, you know, just to tighten that up so it's not moving about all over the place. So just tiny little bit of weld on the back, and now it's no longer flapping about.
Dave's new favourite task.
I think I've talked this cylinder head down at least a dozen times now. Good job it's only 22 Newton meters, isn't it? All right, better explain what just happened there. So I went in, watched the video. This little clip, this little piece of wire, I was wondering where it goes, this little bracket. Now, it turns out that I'd routed the oil feed pipes along the top here. And if you recall earlier on in the video, I probably told everybody quite clearly, because the manual told me, that there's clear markings at the upper surface side of these inlet manifolds. And they go up towards the cylinder head, meaning that the oil pipes are on the low side away from the cylinder head. So the oil pipes for these ones are on the low side away from this cylinder head. There's that other screw that we were looking for earlier. Right. Anyway, so feeding these pipes around, then what I realized was, yes, you've definitely got to get the power valve mechanism in before you do this this set of inlet manifolds that go to the rear set of heads. And the reason for that is because the routing of the oil pipes goes directly over the top of that rod. And then what makes perfect sense to me, although I've not found it in the book, but this is what I can see happening, this strange little piece of wire that's got a little retaining stopper there and a little curved handle there is designed to support the oil feed pipes up and above the power valve rod. Because as the power valve rods, as this motor's turning and adjusting and opening and closing the power valves, this rod's moving backwards and forwards. So these oil pipes need to be held clear of that. Make sense? Cool.
Definitely.
Thank goodness for that. Right. I think the final task now, before I fit this into the engine, final 2 tasks, is put the coolant cross pipe in, and then pop down to Adams, get the new adapters for the pressure kit, and then do the pressure test, and then hopefully, provided it passes the pressure test, then we can install it into the frame. Yeah, so it's actually leaking out of this a little bit.
So it's the bone tester.
Yeah, well, maybe I'll try and tighten that a touch more.
Yeah.
Okay, so I promise this isn't a setup. This is just, I've said this a number of times, I'm not the sharpest tool in the box. So we've got the leak tester set up on the upper bank. We've had to clamp down to stop these from popping out. Now at the moment I've got no pressure in because it just leaks out at the moment. So what we've got is the soapy water to test in a second. And I'm only putting a small amount of pressure on. So that needle's just raised up, but I can see that it's coming down. And if you look around here, see all the bubbles?
Yeah.
Okay. Now, this isn't a setup, I promise you. As I said, this is just me being an idiot. Look at that. I didn't even tighten that up yesterday. We were such a rush to go out and do Christmassy stuff. So now I'll just go and tighten that all the way around, and then we'll redo the test. Final thoughts on this. So these were 3D printed. Adam fitted some O-rings into them. So those are the exhaust ones. No real issues with these. All we had to do was drill out the holes a little bit larger, about 9mm. And when we tightened them down, we actually tightened them all the way until this face contacted there, which actually made it look like it was a little bit bowed. But at the end of the day, we're just ensuring we're pressing hard with this O-ring against the outer seal. All right, and then on the inlet side of things, what did we do here? On this one, we had to use some of the bonding to seal that valve in there. That's just a normal bicycle tyre valve. You see there's a rib there that sticks up on these. All right, so you've got a flat bit and then you've got a rib lip. Well, this has been copied exactly from the carburetor. So you've got a little bit of a chamfer and then you've got a dip, and that. So we push that all the way in. It's a pretty tight fit. And then you use an extra deep socket over the top of this valve so you don't damage the valve, and sort of push it in until this rubber lip fits into there. And then of course you tighten up this clamp, which is the clamp from tightening the carburetor anyway. The one on the back side, you just put it in a blanket. And then with the bicycle pump, we just put it up to about, I think it's about 5 psi, 4 or 5 psi, something like that. And just goes around it with a soapy water. It bubbles up very quickly if you've got a leak somewhere, which I think we got some good footage of earlier, because I'd forgotten to do up a couple of the Allen key bolts on the inlet manifold. But yeah, everywhere else that I was really concerned about, you know, gasket surfaces, the oil seals, the generator oil seal in particular, yeah, all sound, no problem at all.
He's getting ready.
He's getting ready. All right, this one's for you.
Psyching yourself up.
All right, this one's for you, Rich. Ask how much an RD500 engine weighs. Good question, because I genuinely don't know. It feels, based on my human torque wrench experience, it feels about 50 kilos-ish.
I was going to say, like, friggin' heavy.
Well, I wouldn't have said friggin' heavy. I would have said this feels like about the same as a household Tracy.
Good stuff.
Hold on, I've just knocked it off.
Let's just wait for it to reset.
There we go. There we go. Right.
How much do you think?
47.85. There you go. You got it? Cool.
Yeah, I got it.
Okay, so just under 48 kilos. Join us next week where we try to figure out how to get that into that without buggering my back up.
Well, my back's goosed, so you're on your own.
No worries. See you later. Well, you just get a ring spanner and put it on and just like guess it. That works. That works really well. It's a lot easier.
Go.
Oh, God. All right. So final thoughts from me on that is, yes, this will get onto some of the more tricky ones, but not without a little bit of modification onto all of them 100%. Luckily, they come with plenty of meat on them, so it won't be a problem just to grind that down a little bit, just to give you the clearance between the actual cases and the nut. All right. It is pretty tight. But what I've been able to do for myself is the method that I used previously with a standard ring spanner, i.e. what I did, I torqued down a nut, checked it was 28 Newton meters with a normal typical socket and the torque wrench. Then immediately took that off, put my ring spanner on, gauged how hard it was of physical effort for me to move it just a fraction with that ring spanner, and then immediately moved that to the tricky, difficult ones and replicated that. So become a human torque wrench, effectively. However, then, what are you going to say?
I was just going to say, so you were a tool.
I was a tool. Okay. Well done, darling. All right. And then using this, cheeky fucker, using this, I was able then to pop it on and then confirm how close to 28 Newton meters I was. How
A big
close?
tool.
Hey?
A big tool.
How close was I? Very, very close. I was 28 Newton meters. Exactly. You dickhead. So later on this afternoon, you're going to give me a hand, pop this back into the engine. Sorry, the engine back into the frame. It's getting quite heavy. So,
Yeah. Did you read your t-shirt?
This one?
Yeah.
Oh, do it yourself, don't you?
There's your answer.
Thanks very much.